Recorder. Hi, and welcome to Muhammad Bana's podcast, sponsored by today, Trezor International. And today, being the 1st of June 2022, we have Matej, the Chief Product Officer of Trezor Hardwallets. Welcome, Matej.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, just for the listeners out there, Trezor is a hard wallet company, and it's very important that people take their crypto off exchanges and puts them into hard wallets. So that's why we've invited Trezor today to explain to us the benefits of the product and why people need to take their Bitcoin and crypto off hard wallets, off exchanges. So Matej, tell us about Trezor and the pros of using a hard wallet.
Yes, I think it's a great question to start with, because there are a few misconceptions that are in the market about hardware wallets and about why it's not maybe a great idea to keep your funds whatever kind of crypto asset that is on an exchange. So let's talk about that. So basically, I will start maybe by just giving you a picture of what a hardware wallet is. Basically, it's like a small device with a display on it, which you can connect to your phone or to your computer. And this device basically holds what is it called, private keys from your funds. So actually, the Bitcoin or anything, it's not stored on the device. This device is just you can really think of as a physical key from a door. So basically, it opens your funds on blockchain, the distributed network of, let's say, Bitcoin. And why this thing exists and why we are selling it globally and why we are kind of successful doing so is that these exchanges that you mentioned, so they get hacked all the time, honestly. Like that's basically they store your private keys on some server, and the server is eventually there are attacks on these exchanges every day.
Targets,
and exactly, they are the targets of I guess a lot of hackers around the world. And these hacks happened in the past, they are happening today, and they will certainly happen in the future. That's like a given thing. So what we advise the users, and in general, it's not even even there are other hardware wallets. I would even advise just to buy any hardware wallet, but of course we love Trezor, but really it's a good idea to put it on the hardware, because that's the safest place, that's the safest way to store the private keys of your funds. So let's say think of a use case or a user journey, right? So let's say I don't know anything about Bitcoin. I go to one of these exchanges and I buy, I don't know, a few dollars worth of Bitcoin on some of these exchanges. I kind of experiment with with the technology. I kind of start to feel what is it all about, what Bitcoin is. Maybe I read some more, and let's say I will start putting more and more money into Bitcoin. At some point, it may be as a certain percentage of your whole assets that you basically own. And at that point, it's very, very risky to have it on an exchange, because if this hack happens, and since Bitcoin is decentralized, it's truly decentralized thing, and somebody stole these private keys from the exchange, there's no way to recover it. There's no central institution that would come to you and say, okay, you lost your password. No, don't worry, we will recover the password, and there's your funds. That's not how Bitcoin works. It's basically really truly decentralized. So once somebody gets a hold of these keys, it's gone forever. You cannot really recover it anyway. So
that's I would say. I mean, I've been in Bitcoin now for more than 4 or 5 years, and the responsibility with true ownership. Okay, if you want an asset that you have true ownership of, then you have to be responsible to keep those keys or passwords.
Exactly. There's this famous, I think, sentence that is used in a crypto engineer, not your keys, not your
funds. Yeah. Not your keys, not your funds.
Exactly.
We will get there later. I was I found a few friends that are very Bitcoin bullish, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have this podcast with Trezor today. What questions do you guys got? And it was funny because the guys are like, oh yeah, you should bring up, the boating accident. Like when someone dropped their hard wallet off the boat. Did you hear that joke? Right. And
yeah, well, yeah, no, but yeah, tell me more. I'm interested.
yeah, so someone was on a boat. I don't know if they were fishing or what they were doing, and they dropped their hard wallet. Number one, I don't know why their hard wallet was with them on a boat. But number two, if the guy's got his 12-word seed phrase or his 24-word seed phrase, then he'd have a recovery, correct or wrong?
Exactly, that's totally right. So basically, and that is actually where Trezor comes as a company, because the founders of the company are the very first people, or the group of people that created this standard or protocol that is called BIP39. It's, don't worry, it's some technical name, but like basically what it does, that these keys that we talked about, you can think of the key as like a really long string of characters and numbers. So it's like a really difficult password. Let's call it this way, right? It's like a human readable, but kind of difficult to remember and whatnot. So, and what we created as a company is this big backup system where basically the hardware wallet, it creates the private keys for you, or the public and the private keys for you. And then you can create a big backup system by writing down these words that you mentioned. So basically the device will show you on the display, will show you the 12 or 24 words. You write them down. You can store them even in some like backup system, like steel backup, we call it. It's like these like more like mechanical things, not just paper. Exactly, to protect the words. You just store them somewhere safe, somewhere near your house, or like even actual bank or whatever. It's up to you. And then even if you lose the device, it's not a problem, because you take these words, you write it down back to any device, actually, even any hardware wallet for the matter, or even software wallet for the matter, and using this BIP39 protocol, and you recover the private keys, and you recover your funds. So now all of a sudden you can again get access to your holdings, basically.
Okay. Now, so we've managed
no problem for the bull problem.
we've managed to, as Global Institute of Wealth, on my new startup, we've managed to affiliate with Trezor and with CryptoTag. So we've chosen CryptoTag to store the seed phrases. And I know on your people's website, you can purchase the bundle pack of both of them. So quite a few of our clients, we've purchased the CryptoTag with the Trezor, and it's working quite well. We offer the service, we download the Trezor suite on their laptop, we load their crypto, we even punch their crypto tags for them and give it back to them. So they have to do nothing, right? And what we found with the high net worth individuals, they actually don't have the time or are not prepared to learn, but they see the solution, okay? And they understand that they're missing out on a growth opportunity in this new asset class, digital asset class. So a lot of them are moving their funds over. But we're here to educate the listeners on keeping your crypto on your cell phone. Most people I know, most of the youngsters still have their apps on their phone. What advice would you say to the youngsters out there with the crypto tags? I mean, with their phones on the exchanges?
Yeah, so as you mentioned before, I think it's important to take these basically to get a hardware wallet, and it's the safest way there is. And I mean, be it a mobile app or be it like a web version of some exchange, it's still the same. The problem remains the same. It means that yeah, exactly, they are online, and the keys are stored somewhere on their cloud, and this cloud can get hacked, and eventually, and there are really like many.
We've seen many hacks, from Bitfinex to Binance there's been a lot of hacks in the recent few years, and I think it's just the hackers are going to try harder, and because there's more money on exchanges, wouldn't you say?
Exactly, totally. Like you mentioned some big names, like Binance, even Coinbase had like I think like a couple of years ago some bigger hack. So it's really even the big players in the game are are I would say vulnerable as well, like as well as the small ones. So they might have like a better security, stronger teams, and whatnot, but still, it's the problem is basically if you really, as you mentioned before, if you don't hold the keys yourself, if you don't operate everything on your own, then you can't really like make sure that the Bitcoin won't get stolen. So.
So tell me, is there a difference between 12-word password and a 24-word seed phrase?
Yeah, so it's just like a variation in the protocol, but for the security, there's no big difference for the user. It's just the way you can actually choose on the device when you are like selecting like what type of backup you want to create. So you can do that. There is also one thing that we as a company do is something that we call Shamir backup. It's more advanced way to store your seeds. So basically you create multiple seats, you divide them between different shares, and then you basically you set up the scheme or you set up the system as you want. So for example, you can create 5 different seats, and when you're creating the backup, you say, okay, I want for the 3 seat out of the 5 to be able to recover the master password, the master secrets. Sorry. So basically, you can even have multiple shares and distribute them in different locations. Let's say I don't know, to your cottage, your grandmother, and at your home. And then if you select like and at least, and if you're trying to do the recovery, you use at least, like I said, for example, 3 out of 5, and it will recover the secret for you.
Okay, so is this different to a multi-sig wallet?
Yeah, it's a different system because multi-sig wallet, it's like as the name kind of says, it's multiple signatures for a given transaction. This is different. It's just like a distributed seed, but it's really important. It's not a good advice to like split the words, in separate locations. That's not advisable because you can really mix things up, and it's not a good idea. But this Shamir backup that I mentioned, it's actually creating a separate seed. So it's like a different seed for each like a share, and then you can. But I honestly like that's something for, I would say, more experienced users, right? Like we wouldn't recommend to do this like as an novice. So if you're really starting out and you're getting your first like first, like say funds from any exchange. So you mentioned some mobile wallets and stuff. I would recommend just go with a single backup and experience the whole thing.
Okay, so let's say I know we wanted to keep this conversation basic, but I'm forced to go to the next level because we have some clients with over $1 million that they want to put into Bitcoin. Okay, now when you're putting $1 million into Bitcoin and then you're putting it on a Trezor wallet, you're very scared about your 12-word password. So what you were just recommending is that where someone like that would use the split of the seed phrase?
Yeah, exactly. It's something as you mentioned, you can either use the multisig, so you would use a multisig wallet, or there are even like institutions that do that for you. So basically, you hold some of the keys, and the institution holds the other keys. So that's the way you kind of
do you like
distribute
that? Do you prefer that? Would you want to use an external institution holding part? And
I mean, not us as a company. We are not in the game. It's not something we really focus on a single user, I would say. And our kind of answer to the multi-signature thing or the multi-sig wallet is the Shamir backup that I mentioned. So basically, you can do that on your own. It's kind of like a DIY.
How do you say that? Shamir. What do you say?
Shamir. So it's SHIMIR. It's a name after a famous cryptographer that came with the cryptographic sort of.
I think this might be a better solution for our high net worth individuals because they don't want to be keeping their.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, they talk, and we all hope that one day Bitcoin will be over $1 million. So even people that start off with just a little bit of Satoshis and a few Bitcoin, they're also going to have, let's say, the stress of how to secure, and pass down from generation to generation their assets. Okay. So I think the Shamir is what we need to look at. I will research it, and we will have a different podcast on that.
Yeah, I think you will find more information on our website and on our blog post where we describe this even from the cryptographic point of view. It's, I would say again, like, but I agree. I think for the as you say, like what do you call it, like a high net worth individuals, I think it's definitely something you should look at, because basically the point is to eliminate like a single point of failure. So if imagine anything happened with the seed that you have in your home, it's just one thing, and it holds everything that you have there. So whereas with the Shamir backup, you have basically multiple points of failure. So it's really important to basically the more you own, it's more advisable to distribute the risk basically.
So tell me, you've got multiple different models in the Trezor, right? I don't need to go into detail, but the reason we've affiliated with Trezor is because we found you guys to be the leading technology in the industry, on par with Ledger, I would say. Those two, we've affiliated with both, but we found that for me, it's like an honor to be affiliated with you all, because I feel like I'm affiliating with, like someone that started Mercedes-Benz or someone that started Nike or something. No, seriously. I mean, to be sitting in South Africa and being affiliated with Trezor is like a huge honor, because I realized what a potential you have to explode globally, because as soon as adoption comes, you're already a leader in the segment. Okay. So how many countries do you all sell to, and how big has the company grown, and what has been the milestones? I mean, how long have you been there?
Yeah, so I think you explained it pretty well, because like my own feelings, right? Because it's really amazing to work for a company that has this huge potential on the global market. So last week I was in New York. I was queuing I was just queuing for like to get a pair of sneakers or whatever, and a guy next to me, we just starting to chat a little bit, and so I realized that like he's a like a developer for like on a blockchain, and we started talking about the hardware wallets, and I told him I work for Trezor, and was like, yeah, wow, it's an amazing and great company, and for us as a Czech people, we are like a tiny country, 10 million people in the middle of Europe. So it's like a great honor that we can work on products and something that is like, first, like it's open source. And then it's like we really believe in the decentralization and the sort of new money, part of Bitcoin. We are like really mainly about Bitcoin and about like cryptocurrencies that support the decentralization, the privacy, and the security of the users. So, and to have like a global impact in that, like in this way, it's really is like a kind of a way of giving the individual some freedom, and the freedom to transact beyond just the government money is, I mean, it's just an amazing, so it's an amazing experience. So the company started I don't know, some like 8-9 years ago, I think. I'm not exactly like, because we had some anniversary, but I'm not now sure. I lost track, but I joined personally 3 years ago, and we grew quite a lot in the past year. So and it's, I think, thanks to basically like whenever Bitcoin price rises, meaning whenever there's more demand for Bitcoin, the hardware wallets are being sold more, and there's like, we totally see the increased demand for our products. So so we grew quite a lot. As for, because I think you also asked like what kind of products we have. So we basically have two main models. The Model 1 is, if I'm not mistaken, from the year 2014. So it's actually pretty, let's say, like old device. But the amazing thing is that we keep working on the software and the firmware that runs on these devices. So they're still, you know, up to date. It's not like a, I think it's really still like a totally up to date product. And then we have a Model T, which is slightly larger, and it has also touch display. So the Model 1 has like 2 buttons,
Yes,
and
yes.
the Model T is like a color. It has like a color display and touch LCD. So.
Yeah. And is there any innovation of a next model coming out or anything in the pipeline?
Oh yeah, totally. You know, we always like think about like how to improve the products and how to bring something new. So I guess I can tease that we are preparing new hardware that we would like to launch probably you know, in the upcoming year, let's say. And we also like the main kind of I would say question for us is the connectivity, because the devices that we saw now, they don't have Bluetooth, meaning you cannot really connect them to mobile devices. You know, in like you can connect them to Android through cable, but you know, it's not as you know, the experience is not as smooth as if you connect it via Bluetooth. So that's something that we would like to improve, and something that we are working on pretty hard
That's a good
right
idea.
now.
Take out the wires. And do you see, so this is a podcast, we're just going to talk about competitors, but it's not like we got anything to
Of course, no problem.
There was a company I saw that was at Bitcoin conference in Miami, where they had like a credit card, and their thing was they had the app on the phone, and they said this was the hard wallet, and but you had to touch the two devices. It's called Oculus. Did you see that?
I think I've heard of it. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not like super familiar with it, so I might be totally wrong of how it works. But if I'm not mistaken, it's just like some NFC technology where you just like basically connect the keys, or like transfer the keys through.
I think where my question lies: do you see the hard wallet ever going onto the mobile device and just having
You know, yeah, I think the future honestly may be there, that it is connected to like the phone, let's say the phone directly. The problem being is, you know, like I mentioned that we are like an open source company, right? Like, so it's like super important for the mission of the company, everything to be like extremely transparent. So technically, you can definitely like put another chip or like a secure element on a mobile phone, and you can store the private keys, you know, the keys there. Problem being, it will never be open source. Like, not at least you can create an open source phone, of course.
Yeah.
But if you are talking about like the big companies like an Apple, Samsung, and etc., that's never going to be the case. So, and that's problematic, because then you can't really be ever sure how the things are like wired.
Yes.
Technically, if the community cannot really audit it. So you know, it might be the case. It will be more mainstream. But even then, companies such as ours will, I believe, will always have a space in the whole industry, because it's really, we are going kind of extreme in the like the open source way of doing things. So there will always be, and also the fact that it is a single-use device, like in a way it's used just for this specific use case, is actually a good thing as well, because then again, it's not as complicated in a way. So it's, you are not as prone to like hacks and maybe certain you know, mistakes that you do like in the development process. So again, like this single-use devices will always have, you know, their place on the market, in my opinion.
Cool. And one more question. You know, there was a hack that Ledger had, and there was a whole database of users that got stolen. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, honestly, like, I mean, in our case, we try to. I mean, I feel sorry for them. You know, it's like, I mean, hackers in the sense like it's a bad thing. You know, like there's. I mean, there are our competitors, but still, like, I don't wish anybody anything bad. So it's horrible that it happened. I think eventually it like you know, impacts the whole industry, because like this sort of I would say like the reliability of the whole industry is like, you know, like kind of decreases through these things. But what we do, like, because we have a little, slightly different approach to these things. So we try to because normal as a company, let's say like as a software as a service business, you try to collect as much data about your users as you can, and to make like
point of view or something. Yeah.
Exactly. You try to make like informed decisions about developing new features, about like targeting certain segments of your users, etc. So try to really collect as much as you can. In our case, it's it's totally like counterintuitive, but we actually try to like have as little data as possible. Definitely, everything is totally anonymized. So even though if you, for example, in Trezor Suite, we have analytics, but we really inform the user, hey, like, do you really like want to be helping us to improve the product? But even then, everything is like extreme, like anonymized, and really don't know anything about any specific users. So even if you got hacked, like nobody is able to find anything. But on our eShop, for example, so we try to or we delete all the data that we have after like 90 days of the users. So for example, if somebody, let's say you purchase a Trezor on our website, we know your name, your contact, address, basically a place where we ship the product, the device, and after 90 days we delete the data. So because there's this again, like there's this saying, the only safe data that you have is it's actually the one that you don't have. That's the only like safe data in the world of like hacks and
no, it's good that we discuss that, and I understand what you're saying. And yeah, the thing is, the world's moving so fast, okay, and we need to store our assets securely, but the hackers are moving as fast, and everything's just changing, So when I got into this, not just got into Bitcoin in 2016, but let's call it in 2020, there were 6,000 cryptos on CoinMarketCap, okay? There's now 19,500. Okay, so you can't keep up with the pace, correct or wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, 19,500. I bet you nobody can call off 100 names.
Yeah, totally. It's a again like very topical. I would say like a question, or it's very topical for us as a company, because we really we don't want to live off the FOMO. So we are kind of, our approach to implementing new coins and new cryptocurrencies is, I would say, pretty conservative. So we are definitely like Bitcoin first company, like meaning we first like focus on Bitcoin. So whenever we have like a product roadmap plans, whatever, it's always the Bitcoin would be like on top of things, like for example, we are now developing a feature called Conjure. We can talk about that maybe later because it's like an interesting thing, but it's very Bitcoin related, right? So these things will always have priority. And the point being, and it's exactly because of the thing that you just said, like is like nobody can keep up, and it's not even, we wouldn't even advise the users and the novices to, like, especially the new users, to get on these like new crazy networks, because it happened so many times in the past, and we saw it very recently with Luna and whatnot. These like crashes. So basically, there's like this hype around the coin, you invest some money into it, and it really plummets and goes to like zero. So whereas Bitcoin and let's say even Ethereum, like there's like a steady growth and steady. It's still volatile, of course. It's cryptocurrency, and of course, but like if you look at the graph long time, you totally see that it's still coming up. So yeah.
And I think the listeners out there, especially the youth, they need to realize that most of these are shit coins.
Exactly. That's how we call them internally as well. So I'm glad to use the name.
When I was doing the MIT course on cryptocurrency, so Gary Gesner was one of the lecturers in MIT that did the crypto course for us, and now he's head of SEC on the Biden administration. Okay. And he said it very nicely that most of the ICOs that took place were selling you a ticket for a meal when the restaurant was not even built.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good like example. Yeah, I think it's a fair thing. You know, like we in 2017, even before I was in the company, there was like we got a lot kind of a push from the community to implement this and that. You know, like implement this coin and that altcoin, and the promise was if you implement it and if you support it in your Trezor ecosystem and in the firmware, the users will come and then they will use your device. You know, like 90% of the shitcoins died out within a couple of years. So, or within a year. So,
Yeah.
and for us, honestly, it's like, well, it's not good for the users first. So that's the most important. But even for us as a company and as a business, like, of course, I mean, there's a cost, you know,
Development cost.
like related to exactly. You have to like implement it. You have to implement and maintain it. For us, it's like extremely important that everything is tested properly. You know, so there's like no coin loss or anything, nothing like that ever happened. So like, it really is like super important. So yeah, it costs money, you know, for us
So
to
how many
like, and we
coins
don't
do
want
you
to
also
invest
hold
in
at
the
the
bullshit
moment?
projects. If I'm not mistaken, it's around 1800.
Oh, that's
But
a lot.
don't quote me on that. But yeah, it's still a lot. So
So over
yeah,
1,500 coins.
over 1,800 if I'm not mistaken. But to be fair, so most of these things are tokens on the Ethereum network. So it's
Oh,
technologically the same thing. Yeah, but like so that's important to know because I think like the unique networks is around like 20 or 30, but then you have Ethereum and there's like a ton of tokens. You know the ERC20
yes.
ERC20 tokens. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So how's things in Prague otherwise?
I mean, it's amazing now. It's the weather is beautiful and
Yeah.
like I think the summer is starting, but it's not too hot yet. So I really enjoy it.
I've been to Prague to the Charles Bridge there. I remember that place.
Oh, you've been here? Nice, nice,
I took a train through Bratislava and where was I?
nice,
Budapest. Yeah.
nice, nice.
So
Very cool.
is your team, do you have a big team for Trezor in Prague? Or do
Yeah.
you?
So right now we are yeah, I think like 115 people in the Trezor company alone.
That's
We
nice.
have two more companies that work with us. So in total, I think we are around like again, don't quote me on that, but I think it's like 150 at this point or something. You know, so we are growing quite a lot. And the other two companies are working. So one is working basically on like exchanges and buy and sell functionality within the Trezor ecosystem. We will very like soon launch like a Bitcoin savings. So basically, you can connect your credit card and basically like send like a recurring payments. Yeah, like it's like a DCA, digital dollar cost averaging. It's called. So we do that, and also
That's the
the
trick to this whole thing, dollar cost average. You just
exactly.
gave everyone the answer.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other company, it's called Tropic Square, and these guys are working on an open source chip because that's again like very interesting because we talked about these phones, right? Like you ask if whether hardware will ever be like the lift within a phone or like a major phone company maybe. So what these guys are working on is like truly open source chip because really open source I mean, there are not really an open source chip like on the market. It's basically that we could use. These chips are like very close in like all these NDAs, layered in many layers of NDAs of different companies, and you cannot really audit them, as an independent party. So that's something that we would like to change and that we are working on as well. But it's like a separate entity, right? Like I'm in the
But
Trezor team mainly on the hardware wall.
so I'm just for my own curiosity. So is there like a Trezor office there, or you all work remotely?
Oh, there's an office. So we have a like a building that we have offices in, and all these companies are there. Of course, like COVID and the pandemic changed
Yes, yes.
the way we work as all of us, I guess, around the world changed the way. So we are more remote friendly now for sure. There's like we have even like this it's not an office, but we you know, like spend some time in like Lisbon as well sometimes, like, so we, you know, rent an Airbnb
Okay.
and do some team buildings there and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. So what happens in Lisbon? Because I go to Lisbon often. I've got some other businesses there.
It's just like we, you know, I mean, we like the country. It's by the sea,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we sometimes rent an Airbnb and do like a different team buildings and
Okay,
stuff.
okay,
So,
okay. But there's no Trezor building or Trezor office in Lisbon.
oh no. There's no official. It's just like I wanted to illustrate that we are now more distributed team and
Yes.
we are remote friendly. You know, like I was like these past 2 weeks in the US and we, you know, and perfectly fine. I can still work with my team and everything's good. So
Look, at the end of the day, I also, with this podcast, the beauty of it is I could be anywhere in the world and still have the podcast on a Wednesday at 3:30 with anyone, you know, so that's my time slot for my podcast is Wednesday, 3:30 South African time. And it's working,
nice.
it's working well because we've spoken to people in Indonesia, we've spoken to people in Florida, in America, we've spoken to someone in Portugal last week, and now we've got someone in Prague. So this podcast has already become international just while I'm sitting at home on my laptop.
No,
Right.
it's very cool. Of course, I think it's
And
like
yeah, I'm saying working online has changed our lives, and I think COVID's accelerated the whole thing.
Totally. And honestly, like I would say that's one of the very few things that COVID like improves in the world. Like I
Yes.
think, you know, like the internet connectivity and the speed is like there. We can totally do this. It's just like, of course, it's very comfortable to meet with people in person. I believe it will always be the case. There's no like metaverse where it is
Yes.
going to change this. Like we are still social animals, and we are not like going to ever like you know, change that, I guess. Uh, but but definitely like for my personal like at least use case, you know, I like to go to the mountains and stuff, and it's awesome that I can work, you know, very comfortably on the road and still, you know, pull, I don't know, 8-10 hours of work, you know, like in a not in the office. So it's awesome.
No. Now, this is the beauty, and in fact, just on Monday we closed our physical office. So on
Oh,
Monday,
yeah.
yeah, and it was a bit what you say. You get this anxiety at first, you know, that first day when you're packing up and whatnot. But I'm actually embracing this whole, you know, remote work, and it's cool. It's cool because the podcast is really showing how it can be done, and you know, with the apps that we've got, I mean, Zoom, we've got Trello, we've got Microsoft Office, and everything's just flowing.
Yeah, totally. Like I again, like I support the movement totally. Like, we actually discussed this like quite recently with the team that we might to hire more internationally because, you know, I mentioned at the very beginning of this podcast that we are a small nation. You know, there's not
Talent. There's
there
not
could be
only so
only
much talent you can find there.
exactly, and especially like the Bitcoin industry is still relatively small compared to, you know,
Any industry.
any other, you know, exactly. So and we really look for like these Bitcoin aficionados, you know, like these like passionate people that really are in it for what Bitcoin is giving to the world, and there's only a certain, you know, number of people, of course, on
I
the
have
planet.
this. I have this huge problem because I'm trying to find people to work in the company, but you're trying to employ people that are Bitcoin, passionate about Bitcoin, and then you realize there's no one out there in Durban that's passionate enough about Bitcoin because we're
Yeah.
so early. It,
Yeah, you know, like it's very, you know, we deal with this all the time, and to be honest, we cannot hire only Bitcoiners because there's certainly not enough people, and so the way we do it is we, of course, we always look for the top talent, right? Like for the best talent that we can find. And we ask certain questions during the interviews, and we kind of want to understand the motives of the person and why they like to work with us. It's really important for the culture for us, and So it's okay if they are not exactly like extremely passionate about Bitcoin, but they definitely have to be willing to learn and to be able to like step into this like world of like decentralization and
So
the
what
self-sovereignty. And
I did this in 1 or 2 interviews. I was like, okay, here's 8 pages of the bullish case of Bitcoin. Go read this and come back. Then when I employ them, I'm like, okay, you're going to be employed, but within the first month, you need to do the sailor.org Bitcoin for everyone course. It's for free. Go do it and come back. It's like,
I think we do exactly the same thing, to be honest. Like when there is like new people that maybe don't have as much experience with Bitcoin as we like to have, or as is required for the certain position that they are about to fill in, we recommend courses and books and reading and stuff that they should follow, and we have like even our own like a Bitcoin ambassador in the company that they are sort of influencers on their own, and they create this educational content for not just for the company but also for the community. So yeah, there's ton of resources that
I need to have a podcast with that guy. Who's this Bitcoin influencer in your company?
Yeah, his name is Josef Kietek, and I'm totally happy to introduce you.
Yeah, he was big. Always great to speak to someone that's always orange pilling everyone, and that's how I started. I mean, at the end of the day, orange pilling my father, orange pilling my brother, my business partners, and then seeing them going from anything to do with crypto is a scam to being laser-eyed. then you did a good job.
Yeah, totally. And this is also an interesting topic because I mentioned that we are all about privacy and security as a company, but we are also a lot about usability and accessibility. So we try to build a product that really, like, when somebody asks me what I do, I usually say, kind of as a joke, but only as a half joke, because there is some truth to it. It's like I teach like people such as my grandma to use Bitcoin, or I create products as that should be used by people such as my grandma. And the point being is like, or what we try to illustrate by this is like, it really should be really simple. And Bitcoin, of course, started as a technical innovation. Of course, it's heavily technical space. But still, the challenge for us and the beauty of the whole, like, of my job, basically, what I love about it is like trying to like show and like these technical and difficult concepts, to basically present them in an easy way that the users doesn't have to be scared about, and that can like work with it very very easily. So yeah.
I think I was speaking to my business coach today. I had a session I have a business coach, and she was telling me that just have the first conversation with, when you go to a high net worth individual's office, just try and listen to what their problems are on preserving wealth, okay? Because all high net worth individuals have one fear: how to pass it down from generation to generation. Mm-hmm. And you need to just listen to the people more. Like, people want you to hear their problems and then give them the solution. If you just go in there and like, oh, you need to buy this Trezor wallet, it's a hard sell. People get pushed away, but I must thank you and say, you know what, I've got a Trezor. I've put a lot of people onto Trezor. It's been the #1 hard wallet that we've picked in our company. Actually, we've only been selling Trezors. It's, and it's easy to use. We know how to use the software. We've used it in multiple countries while we were traveling. So it works well, and it's an honor to meet someone from the company. And probably one day when I'm in Prague, I'll come visit you guys in the head office, or you can meet me in Lisbon. But tell me about, you said there's another product, Bencho or something.
Some products. Sorry, what do you mean?
You said there was something you were coming out with before we finish. You said there was.
Oh yeah. So I mentioned, so it's called CoinJoin. So it's kind of interesting. I mentioned we work on these privacy features. So basically, CoinJoin, it's called really like joining coins, basically, like if you split the word.
Right.
And it's this like thing in Bitcoin where you basically mix the different transactions together. So any like blockchain analysis, because it's more just a step back. So blockchain analysis is something that you basically look at the blockchain, you analyze where the transaction is going from where, from point to point B, and you try to find, oh, who's that person who makes all these transactions, and you try to locate them and stuff. And as we discuss all this, like of course we try to be for the users to be really anonymized, and for the governments not to know about them, because it's not a good thing. Of course, we support like the self-sovereignty of the users. And this CoinGen thing is basically helping you to anonymize the transaction. So, but the blockchain analysis cannot really tell like which user sends,
So it's
something.
mixer.
Exactly, it's a mixer. So it's really like even if you like think of like a physical mixer in the kitchen, it works the same way. So you put some stuff in, and you then.
It's good because I've even thought about using mixers. I mean, if you're moving big sums of money for people around, it's nice to, so it's not traceable.
Exactly. So the point is again like users' privacy, and the point is not like it's not like there's no, the point is not to like support illegal activities, because sometimes like the government say that, but that's not the point. The point is like for the users to really have their own like money that is not in any way connected to the government, or big corp.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one question, which I want to start asking all the guys on my podcast. Okay, so if you could make one move to invest $100 million for your future generations, what would you invest in?
I mean, it's an obvious question. Well, an obvious answer for me, but of course, like I would put it into Bitcoin for sure.
No, but the listeners need to hear that. I mean, it sounds obvious to you and me, and we can laugh about it, but I think go ask people on the street. Okay, if you could give you 100 million rand, but you can only make one investment or $100 million, what asset would you invest in? You saying Bitcoin and you're laughing about it. People don't see the value yet in the public,
Yeah. Like let me give you maybe another example. When I joined the company, and like I mentioned 3 years ago, Bitcoin was around $7,000-8,000 US. It was 60,000 this year, and so whenever there's like these like spikes and the media goes like crazy, go crazy, and they say, oh, it's like it has no value and whatever. It has value. Like I can totally feel it on my own. And so, as you mentioned, you also mentioned the cost averaging. So really, like you can invest small amounts over time. Of course, it's still like it's not, as they say, it's not an investment advice. It's just I do it on my own because it's like I trust into the network like immensely. But like, yeah, like there's the value is like growing, step by step.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I think we'll end off on that note, but definitely this won't be the last podcast. And we got to get more people from your company on. And it's like building friendships with this Bitcoin commonality globally. That's what this podcast is doing for me. It's just,
awesome.
I think the value is really coming to fruit, because at the end of the day, you're just losing an hour talking to someone internationally, but now you have a friend in another country. Right? And that's what it's about. And I think when you never really meet an angry and a depressed Bitcoiner. I don't know. Every Bitcoiner I meet is happy and positive. Am I right?
I guess like we are definitely a happy company. So there's I guess you're right. And as you mentioned, if you ever
maybe it's just having strong belief and positive outlook on life. Maybe
it is that.
I think there's another thing I noticed about Bitcoin is because there was a guy that wrote the MIT course, and he's big into earthing, taking out his shoes and walking on grass, and and I think that's another thing. A lot of Bitcoiners love nature.
I mean, I definitely fall into that category because I love mountains, and I spend like most of my free time in the mountains. So.
I think maybe it's because they're all anti-government also.
Maybe. Maybe.
But Matej, we're going to leave it as that for today, and thank you for your time. We really appreciate your time in your busy schedule, and hope to speak to you soon, and wish Trezor and you all the best. And we're big fans of you guys here in South Africa, and we've been pushing your product every day and every week. So I know our sales are quite low at the moment, but it would pick up, and we just on this journey with you guys, and we support you for everything you've done.
Thank you very much for having me, and really thanks to people like you that are spreading the Bitcoin world, and and advocating for the users, security. It's really what makes us tick. And so thanks to you as well, and thanks for having me. Hoping to catch up later.
Yes, we would.